Hello, my viewers, and welcome back to J.Reddit. Today's weather here in the US is all over the place. On the West Coast, there's light sunshine. The East Coast is cloudy with a bit of drizzle. And the Midwest has that crisp, cool breeze. That makes you want to sit in a coffee shop with a warm drink. As for me, I'm sitting here in a dark blue suit. Honestly, I feel a little overdressed just to record a story. But hey, presentation matters. And you guys, where are you watching from today? Maybe a dorm room. Maybe your living room, couch, or even listening while driving. Let me know in the comments. I always love reading that. All right, let's dive into today's story. Parents sold my car. Huge legal fallout. I'm a 20-year-old college student living at home to save money. Last year, I finally managed to buy my very first car. I worked summers, took overtime shifts, and saved for almost 2 years. That car wasn't just transportation, it was freedom. A few days ago, I came home from class, and my car wasn't in the driveway. At first, I thought maybe it got towed, or maybe I parked it on the next street. But no, when I asked my parents, they looked me straight in the eye, and said, "We sold it. You don't need it anymore." Just like that. No discussion. No warning, no permission. My jaw literally dropped. I felt sick to my stomach. Asterisk audience break now, viewers. Imagine this happening to you. You walk up your driveway and your car is just gone. And your parents casually say, "Oh yeah, we sold it." What would your reaction be? Would you shout, call the police, or just walk out and never come back? Let me know in the comments. The story continues. Asterisk, the worst part, the car title was in my name. I handled the registration, the insurance, everything. It was legally mine. My parents had no right to touch it. I rushed to my room to check my documents and they were gone. Turns out, my parents had literally taken the title papers from my drawer and forged my signature to sell the car. They didn't even try to hide it. When I confronted them, my mom said, "We needed the money. You're still living under our roof. This is our decision." I felt like the floor just dropped under me. They sold my car to pay for their credit card debts. Asterisk Reddit comments. And of course, the comment section went wild. One person wrote, "That's not parenting. That's theft." Another said, "Imagine saving for 2 years, only for your parents to stab you in the back. Unreal." And a third pointed out, "This is forgery and conversion. You could absolutely sue them." By the way, guys, is this story getting your blood pressure up? I know mine is. And speaking of heated situations, I had lunch earlier and put way too much mustard in my sandwich. It felt like shouting in a courtroom with every bite. Sometimes even food can overpower you, just like parents can dot the argument. Asterisk, I asked them how they could even think this was okay. My dad said, "We paid for your food, your clothes, this house." That car was basically ours. I shouted back. "No, it was in my name. I bought it. You stole it from me." We had the worst fight ever. I was shaking with anger. I've never raised my voice at them like this before, but this time I couldn't hold back. I worked for that car. I cried for that car. And they just took it. Now I don't even know what to do. I can't get to class without borrowing rides. I can't get to work. My independence is gone. And my trust in them completely shattered. Asterisk more Reddit reactions. Move out. They don't respect you. Call the police now. Forging documents is literally illegal. I can't imagine the betrayal you're feeling. This is heartbreaking. My opinion, viewers. My opinion is crystal clear. If the car was legally in your name, this is 100% illegal. Family excuses like "we needed the money" don't hold up in court. The law doesn't care about excuses. It cares about documents and ownership. Honestly, if I were in this situation, I wouldn't have stayed in that house another night. I'd have gone straight to a lawyer's office the very next morning. The next morning, I decided to try again. I thought maybe they would calm down overnight and realize what they did was wrong. I wanted to have a calm, rational conversation. But the moment I brought up the car, my dad snapped. We already told you. The car is gone. Stop acting like a spoiled child. Then my mom jumped in. If you keep bringing this up, we'll start charging you rent. You've had it too easy, living here without contributing. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They weren't just unapologetic. They were threatening me for even asking about it. Asterisk audience break viewers. Can you imagine that? They sell your car, take your money, and then threaten to charge you rent if you complain. Would you even be able to stay in that house another day? The post continues asterisk. That's when I realized this wasn't about the car anymore. This was about control. They didn't want me to be independent. They wanted me to rely on them completely. The car wasn't just a vehicle, it was freedom. And they hated the idea of me having freedom. I felt trapped. I couldn't get to work. I couldn't get to class. And now, I felt like a prisoner in my own home. I spent the rest of the day locked in my room, just reading through the Reddit comments. Honestly, strangers on the internet gave me more comfort than my own parents. Asterisk Reddit comments, this is financial abuse. They stole from you and are gaslighting you into thinking you're wrong. File a police report. Forging your signature is fraud. They didn't just sell your car. They sold your trust. Move out as soon as you can. My insert in that last comment really hit me. They didn't just sell your car, they sold your trust. Isn't that the truth? Because once trust is broken in a family, it doesn't magically grow back. It leaves cracks. The story deepens asterisk. I decided to dig deeper. I still had a copy of the VEG number and some insurance documents saved in my email. Using that, I managed to track down the buyer who purchased my car. I called him and explained the situation. He was shocked. He told me he had paid $8,500 cash and received the title signed by my parents. He said he thought everything was legitimate and didn't want to be involved in any trouble. That's when I realized the full scope of this mess. Not only had my parents betrayed me, but they also dragged an innocent buyer into this. Reddit explodes again. This is fraud and forgery. Report it immediately. The buyer is protected if he purchased in good faith, but your parents are in huge legal trouble. Contact a lawyer today. Do not wait. My opinion, and honestly, I agree with those comments. Too many times, people in these situations hesitate because they're family. But viewers, family or not, forgery is forgery, and theft is theft. The longer you wait, the harder it gets to fix. The dilemma asterisk. Now, I don't know what to do. If I report this to the police, my parents could get arrested. As furious as I am, I don't know if I can live with seeing them in handcuffs. But if I don't do anything, then I've basically lost $8,500 and my only way of getting to work. And school? Either way, I feel trapped. Asterisk, comment, debate. This sparked a huge debate in the thread. Some said they made their choice. If they didn't want consequences, they shouldn't have committed a crime. Others said, think carefully. Once you involve the law, there's no going back. This could permanently destroy your relationship. And one of the top replies summed it up. Ask yourself this. Did they destroy the relationship when they sold your car, or when you thought about holding them accountable? That's such a powerful question, isn't it? Because sometimes the damage isn't done when you react. The damage was already done by the betrayal itself. After reading hundreds of comments, I realized people weren't just sympathizing. They were laying out actual legal advice. One user broke it down, step by step. File a police report immediately. Gather all the proof, your original insurance, papers, old copies of the title, bank statements showing your payments. Talk to a lawyer about a civil suit for damages. If you're worried about your parents getting arrested, at least consult an attorney first. You might be able to handle it in civil courts without pressing criminal charges. Asterisk. Now let's think about this together. Viewers, If your parents sold your car without your permission, would you actually call the police? Or would you try to handle it quietly within the family? Drop your thoughts. I know some people would hesitato, but others would go full legal mode instantly. H is post continues asterisk. I never thought I'd be in a position where I'd even consider suing my parents. It feels wrong, just saying it out loud. But then again, what they did to me was also wrong. They forged my signature. They stole from me. They destroyed my independence. I went back and forth in my head 100 times. Family versus justice. Love versus the law. I even thought, maybe I could just let it go. Maybe I could save up again and buy another car. But then I realized, what if they do it again? What if they sell something else of mine? Where does it stop? Asterisk Reddit reactions, letting it go only teaches them they can keep crossing your boundaries. You're not ruining the family by standing up for yourself. They ruined it when they betrayed it. You! Even if you don't want to see them arrested, at least get legal advice. Protect yourself! My insert, and honestly, that's the heart of it. Boundaries. Family or not. When someone crosses such a massive line, the only way to stop it from happening again is to take a stand. The emotional fallout asterisk. Meanwhile, things at home got worse. My parents acted like nothing happened. My mom kept asking me to run errands, like I could magically get there without a car. My dad complained that I was sulking around the house. It was surreal. They acted normal, while I felt like my world had collapsed. At dinner, my dad even said, "You'll thank us one day. We saved you from wasting more money on that car." I almost laughed. Saved me. I paid for it myself. How does selling my property and keeping the money save me? Asterisk, comment section, classic. They do something wrong, then twist it so it looks like they were doing you a favor. If they wanted to help, they could have asked. Not stolen. Oh, please move out. They clearly don't respect you. My thought, and that word respect keeps coming up, because this isn't just about money or cars. It's about respect. If your parents don't respect your hard work, your property, or your boundaries, then what kind of relationship is left? The crossroads? Asterisk. Now, I'm at a crossroads. Do I call the police and risk destroying my family? Or do I stay quiet and risk losing myself? I've started looking at apartments near campus. Maybe it's time to finally move out. It'll be expensive, but at least I'll have peace of mind. And if I do decide to take legal action, I want to be out of their house first. Because living under the same roof after filing a report, that would be a nightmare. Asterisk, after that dinner conversation, I stopped trying to reason with them. It became clear that they weren't going to apologize or admit they did anything wrong. To them, I was still just a child under their roof, not an adult who had worked for his own independence. I started quietly planning my next steps. I researched tenant laws in my state. I looked up apartments near campus, and I even spoke to a couple of classmates about potential roommates. I didn't want to live like a prisoner anymore, constantly reminded that my hard work could be taken from me at any time. The hardest part was the silence in the house. My parents acted like life was normal, but I could feel the tension. Every time I walked past the driveway and saw that empty space, it cut me deeper. That car wasn't just metal and wheels, it was my freedom, my proof that I could build something for myself. I also couldn't stop thinking about the buyer. He had been polite and even sympathetic when I called him. He didn't know the title was forged. He was just another person caught in the crossfire of my parents' choices. And as much as I wanted my car back, I knew it wasn't fair to drag him into a legal fight. That made me even angrier at my parents, because their selfish decision created a mess that spread beyond just our family. Nights were the worst. I'd lie awake thinking about every overtime shift I had worked, every paycheck I had tucked away, every moment I had dreamed about driving that car. All of it stolen in an instant. I felt robbed not only of money, but of the trust that family is supposed to give. I kept going back and forth about whether to go to the police. Part of me wanted justice, wanted to show them they couldn't just walk all over me. But another part of me still hesitated. As much as they had hurt me, they were still my parents. Calling the police felt like crossing a line I could never return from. In the end, I decided one thing for sure. I had to move out. If I stayed, I'd never be free. I'd never feel safe. I began saving every extra dollar, skipping meals out, cutting back on everything I could, just so I could get enough for a deposit on an apartment. It's strange. I thought buying that car was the beginning of my independence. But maybe losing it was the real beginning. Because now I know I can't rely on anyone else to protect my future. I have to do it myself. Asterisk, as I started preparing to leave, I noticed how different the atmosphere in the house felt. My parents acted like nothing had happened, like everything was fine, but I knew it wasn't. Every conversation felt shallow. Every meal at the table felt forced. I kept my responses short, avoided long discussions, and spent most of my time behind my closed bedroom door. Meanwhile, I was researching my legal options more carefully. I read countless articles about property laws, forgery, and conversion of assets. I learned that in most states, if someone forges your signature to sell your property, it is a serious crime. It didn't matter if that person was a stranger or your own parent, the law treated it the same. That realization shook me. On paper, my parents weren't just wrong, they were criminals. At the same time, I struggled with guilt. Could I really go through with reporting them? The thought of my mom or dad being questioned by police, or worse, arrested, made my stomach twist. But then I'd walk outside, look at the empty spot in the driveway, and feel my anger rise all over again. They hadn't just sold a car. They had sold the symbol of all my hard work. I started having quiet conversations with a few trusted friends. Some of them told me to cut my losses and focus on moving out. Others urged me to stand up for myself legally, reminding me that if I didn't, it might only get worse. One friend even said, if they think they can take something that was legally yours once, what's stopping them from doing it again? That question stuck in my head. While all of this was happening, school and work became harder to manage. Without a car, I had to rely on rides from classmates or expensive rides just to get to campus. I hated having to explain over and over again why I didn't have my own car anymore. Every time I told the story, it reopened the wound. The nights got heavier too. I kept replaying the confrontation in my head, my dad saying it was their decision, my mom insisting I'd thank them one day. Those words made me feel small, like I wasn't an adult in their eyes, just a child whose belongings could be taken at any time. And that feeling was unbearable. So I began to take concrete steps. I opened a new bank account at a different branch so they couldn't access my money. I locked away important documents in a place they couldn't find. And most importantly, I started visiting apartments after class, quietly planning my exit. With every step I took toward independence, I felt both fear and relief. Fear, because leaving would mean facing the world completely on my own. Relief, because I knew it was the only way to finally take control of my life again. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I was standing at a crossroads. On one path was silence, pack my bags, move out, and try to rebuild my life without looking back. On the other path was action, filing a report, calling a lawyer, and holding my parents accountable for what they had done. Both options terrified me. Walking away felt like letting them win. Taking legal action felt like burning the bridge completely. I kept asking myself, which choice would I regret more? 10 years from now. Late at night, I started writing everything down in a journal. Every detail of the car purchase, every shift I had worked, every word from that awful argument. I kept copies of my pay stubs, insurance payments, and every piece of evidence I could gather. I wasn't sure if I would ever use it, but it gave me a strange sense of power to see it all collected in one place. Meanwhile, life at home became unbearable. My parents acted as though I was being dramatic. They told relatives that I was moody and ungrateful, spinning the story so they looked like the responsible parents who had made a tough financial decision. Hearing that broke me even more, because it showed me they didn't feel a shred of guilt. One weekend, I finally visited a small law office near campus. I didn't file anything yet. I just asked for advice. The lawyer listened patiently as I explained the whole situation. When I told him the car was titled in my name and my signature was forged, he leaned back in his chair and said, "You have a very strong case. What your parents did is not just wrong. It's illegal." Hearing those words out loud was both validating and painful. Validating because it meant I wasn't crazy. Painful because it meant my parents had crossed a line that couldn't be undone. The lawyer gave me options. I could file a police report, which might open a criminal case, or I could pursue a civil lawsuit to recover the money. He told me the choice was mine, but he warned me not to wait too long, because the longer I delayed, the harder it would be to prove. I walked out of that office with my head spinning. On one hand, I finally had clarity. I wasn't imagining the betrayal, and I wasn't overreacting. On the other hand, I now faced a decision that would change everything. That night, I sat on my bed, staring at the empty driveway outside my window. I thought about the long shifts, the late nights, the excitement of buying that car, and then I thought about the betrayal, the silence at dinner, and the threats of charging me rent. For the first time, I allowed myself to admit the truth. I couldn't trust them anymore. Not with my property. Not with my future. Maybe not even with my heart. Asterisk, after meeting with the lawyer, I couldn't look at my parents the same way anymore. Every time I saw them, I felt this strange mix of sadness and anger. Sadness because they were supposed to be the people I trusted most. Anger because they had chosen money and control over honesty and respect. That week, I started making more concrete plans to leave. I contacted a friend from class who had mentioned she was looking for a roommate. We met for coffee, and I told her everything, not just about the car, but about how toxic things had become at home. She listened without judgment and said I could move in as soon as I was ready. The rent would stretch my budget thin, but at least it was possible. I began packing little by little. I didn't want my parents to notice, so I boxed up things gradually, taking some items to my friend's apartment on weekends. Every small step I took made me feel lighter, like I was slowly climbing out of a deep hole. At the same time, my parents grew more distant. They stopped asking me about school, stopped caring about where I went, and mostly ignored me unless they needed something. It was as if they had already decided I wasn't part of the family anymore. One night, my mom knocked on my door and said, "We did what we had to do. One day, you'll thank us." I didn't respond. I just sat there in silence, staring at the wall, realizing those words were never going to mean anything to me again. By the end of the month, I had scraped together enough for the security deposit on the apartment. Signing that lease felt like the first real breath of freedom I had taken in years. But even as I moved my things out, a part of me still carried the weight of what happened. I didn't just lose a car. I lost trust. I lost the sense that my family would protect me no matter what. And that loss hurt more than anything else. As I closed the door to my old room for the last time, I promised myself one thing. Never again would I allow anyone, even family, to have that much power over my life. Asterisk, the day I officially moved out felt both terrifying and liberating. I loaded my boxers into the back of a borrowed pickup truck, keeping my head down so I wouldn't have to face the questions I knew were coming. My parents barely said a word as I carried my things out the door. My dad sat in the living room pretending to read the paper, and my mom busied herself in the kitchen, as if ignoring me would make the whole thing go away. When I took the last box and shut the door behind me, I didn't feel relief right away. I felt empty. That house had been my home for 20 years. But in that moment, it didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a place where I had been betrayed. Arriving at the new apartment was different. The walls were bare, the furniture mismatched, and my room was small. But it was mine. For the first time, I could close a door and know everything inside was safe from being taken without my permission. That small detail meant more to me than anything. The first week was hard. I had to juggle school, a job, and paying rent for the first time. Rideshares drained my budget, and sometimes I walked long distances just to save money. But every struggle felt worth it, because at least I was in control of my own life. Late at night, though, the thoughts always came back. Should I still press charges? Should I still take legal action? Part of me wanted closure, to hold them accountable for what they did. But another part of me wondered if moving on in silence was the better choice. I didn't know which path would hurt less in the long run. Even so, I kept my evidence safe. Copies of bank statements, pay stubs, the lawyer's notes, even screenshots of my conversations with the car's buyer, all locked away in a folder. Maybe one day I'd decide to use it. Maybe not. But just knowing I had the option gave me a sense of control. I had lost for so long. There were moments I caught myself missing my parents. I missed the old days before all of this, when I thought we were a family that trusted each other. But then I'd remember the forged signature, the empty driveway, the threats about charging me rent, and the sadness turned into a kind of quiet resolve. They had made their choice. And now I was making mine. Asterisk, asterisk, living on my own wasn't easy, but it was the kind of challenge that made me stronger. Every bill I paid, every meal I cooked, every long walk to campus reminded me that I was finally standing on my own 2 feet. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. There were days when exhaustion hit me like a wave. I'd come home from class and work, drop onto my mattress, and stare at the ceiling, wondering if I had made the right decision. But then I'd remember that empty driveway and the forged signature, and I knew there was no going back. Independence was hard, but it was better than being controlled. Sometimes I'd catch myself scrolling through old photos on my phone, pictures of my car, of the first road trip I took with friends, of the late night drives that cleared my head. Each picture stung a little, like a reminder of everything I'd lost. But instead of breaking me, those memories fueled me. They reminded me why I had to keep pushing forward, why I couldn't let anyone take away my freedom again. I kept in touch with a few close relatives, but I noticed how the story had been twisted. Some of them had clearly heard only my parents' version, that I was ungrateful, that they had sold the car for my own good. It hurt, but I didn't waste energy trying to defend myself anymore. People believe what they want to believe. What mattered was that I knew the truth. As the weeks turned into months, I started to feel a new kind of peace. I could walk into my apartment and know every dollar I earned, every item I bought, and every decision I made belonged to me. No one could take that away. That sense of security, however small, was priceless. Did I still think about taking legal action? Yes! Often! Some nights I'd open the folder with all my evidence and wonder if I should take the final step. But other nights, I'd close it again and tell myself that sometimes the best revenge is simply living free, proving to myself that they couldn't break me. Deep down, I knew reconciliation was unlikely. Maybe one day we'd talk again. Maybe one day I'd forgive them, even if I could never forget. But trust, that was gone. And once trust is gone, the relationship is never the same. For now, I chose to focus on myself, my education, my work, and my new life. The pain was still there, but so was the freedom. And if there's one thing I learned through all of this, it's that independence is worth fighting for, even when the fight is against your own family. Asterisk. It's been months since my parents sold my car, and my life has completely changed. Moving out was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made, but it also gave me the chance to finally take control of my future. I'm still rebuilding, piece by piece, saving money for another car, managing my classes, and paying my share of rent. It's exhausting, but it feels right. Every choice is mine now. No one can forge my signature, no one can sell my property behind my back, and no one can tell me that independence is a mistake. Sometimes I wonder if my parents think about what they did. Do they regret it? Do they realize how much they damaged our relationship? Or do they still believe they were justified? I don't know if I'll ever get those answers, and maybe I don't need them. What I do know is that trust, once broken, doesn't come back the same way. I may forgive someday, but I'll never forget. The scar is permanent. If there's one lesson I want others to take from this, it's simple. Protect your independence. Keep your documents safe. Make sure your assets are truly yours, and don't ignore red flags. Even when they come from family. Because sometimes the hardest battles we face aren't out in the world. They're right inside our own homes. And in those moments, you have to choose yourself. Asterisk, they didn't just take your car. They took your trust. You did the right thing by leaving. Family doesn't give them the right to steal. Stand tall. You earned your freedom. This story broke my heart, but it also gave me hope because you found the strength to walk away. And that, viewers, is the story. Painful, raw, and it reminds us that independence is priceless, and sometimes protecting it means making the toughest choices of all. So let me ask you, if this had happened to you, would you call the police? Or would you simply walk away and start fresh? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching J.Reddit, and remember, the stories may be tough, but the lessons are powerful. So that's the end of today's story. I'm really curious, if your parents did this to you, would you call the police or just walk away? Share your opinion in the comments. And of course, thank you for spending your time with me today. It really means a lot.